Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. Today we have a really cool little episode. This is going to be a little, snippet of a project that I'm working on a shower. Not this shower, another shower, but I want to kind of give you an idea of what's going on and kind of set the stage. So this shower has a built-up floor. This one has a weedy floor built in it, or a weedy pan. So a built-up floor is going to be made out of what they call mud. And basically it's called a dry pack. And you build that up. Well, when I started breaking into this dry pack, I couldn't get through it. It was extremely thick. It was like this thick. It's only supposed to be a few inches, and you have two layers. You'll have a rubber, membrane in between, and you can usually break that out even with a little sledgehammer or even a hammer. Couldn't do it. Had to rent a jackhammer to get it out. And when I got into it, I realized why it was built up so big. It was built up really big because they ran the plumbing supply lines through the shower pan. Instead of going over and putting them through the wall like you're supposed to do and go up and then feed your shower valve, they actually ran it right through the floor and up. Now, why they did this, I'm not exactly sure, but I have a feeling it has to do with the customer had put a change order in towards the end, and it was going to be a tub. They decided to go to a shower. All the plumbing lines were already ran into the concrete, and they didn't want to move it. So it's been that way for 17 years. So I'm going to actually break it open and get those lines over. Now, a couple of things you need to keep in mind when you're moving lines and you're having to reattach, you do not really want to put fasteners or connections, I should say, underneath the concrete, if at all possible. If you are, you're going to want to use something like brazing. It's a little bit stronger technique, or a really good mechanical connection. You don't want to do flare fittings under there because they can start leaking. You want to try your best to get those up and out of the concrete so that you don't have to worry about that and your connections are in the wall. And in this particular situation, that's exactly what I'm going to try to do. It's a flexible copper. We're going to try to break the concrete away, get enough of that room, that we can actually get it up into the wall, cut the wood back, break the concrete out in that area as well, and go up into the wall. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. So let's go ahead and let's get into it, and let's see if we can actually make that happen. So the shower I'm going to be putting in is going in this location. I have ripped everything out, but when you get down to the mud pan was extremely thick. And when I started looking, they actually made it thick because they ran all of the piping up and into the wall to your mixer valve from the actual mud pan. So the actual plumbing, all of this you see here, was inside of the mud pan itself. And they made the actual mud pan go way up the wall here and cover everything because they didn't want to take the time to cut these notches out like you see right here and put the pipes inside of the wall. Now, I've seen a lot of things in my life, but this is one of the worst. So what I'm having to do now is I'm having to go ahead and cut this wood out. But this is a non-supportive wall, but I'm going to cut this wood out with a multi-tool. I've got to try to chisel out this concrete, and I'm going to try to bend these pipes and get them into place. Now, these are, flexible copper pipes, so we will cut this up here so they can move on both locations. And basically, by the way, this is a cold line coming in, and it has a little fitting here, and it goes back out and feeds the rest of the house. So that at least they got this one up in the wall, but they have kinked these really badly. So I'm going to try to see if I can get them past the kinks and up into the wall, because you really don't want to put fittings underneath the concrete if you can keep from it. And you can either braze fittings in, or you can do some type of a mechanical fitting, but it's better if you don't have any type of connection underneath the concrete slab. Once I get that, then I'm going to recut in the shower drain, which, by the way, was way too tall because obviously they had the floor really tall. And we're going to fix that, put in a mud pan, and go ahead and use concrete siding with a good waterproofer, probably Red Guard, and put in a new valve, a delta valve, see if we can get this thing up and running. But I just wanted you guys to know, if you run into this, you do not want the pipes going through your drain, pan, through your shower pan, mud pan. It should be inside of the wall, and you really don't want fittings under concrete if at all possible. So I'll try to give you a little, recap once I get it moved. Let's see what happens. All right, I have knocked everything out, chiseled the concrete back. And by the way, this worked very well using my hammer drill with a chisel bit. So all I did was a multi-tool and notched everything out along the top, getting the wood out of the way, and then used the hammer drill to take the concrete out. Now I have plenty of room to get these up inside, but if you see those bends, I want to try to get past those bends. So I want to get it up in the wall, past this point you see right here. So when I put my concrete board, this will be encased. Now, obviously, we're going to be putting concrete all back through here. Now, where these penetrate the concrete, you want to have plastic sleeves like these so that you can protect it in the concrete. The alkaline of the concrete will eat it. So that's one of the things. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little map gas like this to go ahead and warm up the pipes just a little to make it a little easier to bend so that you don't end up with these big, spots here. Don't want to get it too hot, and you don't want to do that too often because it makes it brittle afterwards. So we're going to heat it just enough to get it to actually work. Now, one thing I will suggest too is, if you notice, I have all of the PVC pipe here. Use a good pad over it while you're heating up to make sure that you're keeping that heat off of it. So we're going to try that next. It's kind of hard in here because this is such tight quarters to keep the camera rolling, but we're going to go ahead and heat it up, and we will see if they'll bend. So let's try that. We can probably cut a little off of there, and I'll have enough to be able to get my pipe connected. That is looking pretty dang good. So there you go, totally complete. Now those lines are up inside of the wall. So if I ever have a leak in the future, or the customer ever has a leak in the future, they can simply cut the drywall, get inside of there, and make that repair. So that's the way it should be done, and that's the way it should have been done in the beginning. So if you're a contractor and you're doing these types of projects, or if you're a DIYer and you're doing these projects, don't skip on these and try to make things just work. Do it the right way the first time, and you won't have problems in the future. So if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. Ring that little bell notification so that you know about all my upcoming videos as I release them. Be sure you're looking for my free PDFs in all of the descriptions. I've started adding those that give a lot of tips, tricks, and hints that are going to make your DIY projects a little easier. So as always, we'll see you guys on the next one.